Hello there! Today I'm very excited because I'm gonna be sewing my perfect miniskirt. Perhaps if you follow me on Instagram, you know that making my own sewing patterns and my own video tutorials is motivated by my desire to create my perfect wardrobe. Sometimes I make a piece and I never wear it, either because I don't have the necessary context or sometimes I just don't like it that much. But this skirt, I'm positive, this is gonna become a staple of my summer wardrobe. So, if you want to see the skirt in a bigger variety of fabrics and on a bigger variety of bodies, you can check out the hashtag Aurelius DIY skirt on Instagram. And at the end of the video, after the tutorial per se, I'm gonna be giving you a couple more details on the best fabric to pick for this project and answering questions on the size range. The pattern is available in, is it beginner friendly? So let's start with the tutorial. So let me start by showing you the pieces of the pattern. You've got the front, the back. Here are the front and the back facings, which I have backed with interfacing, a longer than necessary zipper, and finally a button and a button strip. So the first step consists in sewing the darts on the front and back parts. I've drawn them with a pink pencil here. I'm gonna pin them. I press them down, which you don't have to. I usually don't press my darts down before sewing them, but I wanted to be thorough in this tutorial. And then I sew them. And once this is done, I'll press the darts down. So for the front, you're gonna iron the darts outwards, and for the back, inwards. This is a sewing convention which you don't have to follow, of course, you can do whatever you like. Okay, now I'm going to stick some interfacing on the left side of my skirt to reinforce the area where I'll be sewing my zipper later on. So I cut a strip of interfacing that is 1.5 centimeter wide. And for the length, I checked on the pattern how long the zipper was supposed to be based on the zipper notch on the side, and I cut it longer than that. Little reminder, you have to cut the strip while respecting the grain line of the interfacing. And then you press it down without steam to stick it. Now I'm going to finish the edges of the skirt and the facings. The only edges that I'm leaving raw are the waist ones because I'll be sewing the facings to the skirt later and these raw edges will be hidden. If you do not have an overlocker, use your overlock or zigzag stitch on your regular sewing machine. And this is what we get. Okay, we're moving on to the most sensitive part of the project, which is the invisible zipper. I have watched quite a few tutorials in English on how to sew an invisible zipper, and to me there is only one that's showing a method guaranteeing an impeccable result. So I laid my front and back parts right sides together and I pinned the two layers on the left side of the skirt. And now I'll sew from the top to the notch using a basting stitch. I don't know what I did of the footage, it's gone. And at the notch I'll switch to a regular stitch length. I'll do securing stitches and I'll sew that way till the bottom of the skirt. This is what it looks like. Now I'm going to add my zipper. The first thing I'm going to do is open the seam allowance of the side seam and press it down. So I'm not showing, but I pressed the zipper teeth open. I place my zipper inline on the middle of the seam. And I pin the zipper to the seam allowance and to the seam allowance only. After that, I'll baste the two layers together. And I'm going to do some securing stitches at the beginning and the end again, but not so many tiny ones that it'll make ripping the seam difficult later on. Also, don't sew very close to the zipper teeth. In the middle of the seam allowance is good. And the last thing is that I've basted beyond my zipper notch, like 2-3 centimeters or an inch past is good. After that, you rip the first basting seam you made when attaching the front and the back together. And that's how it should look like. So as I said in the beginning, you need to use a longer than necessary zipper. That's because at this stage, I'm going to be pulling my zipper head as low as it can go beyond the basting seams and beyond the notch that I've drawn. In the tutorial I'm referring to, the mister uses some pliers. It's almost like tweezers. They're superfluous, you really don't need them. And now I'll sew my zipper proper with my regular stitch length, and I'll do it very close to the teeth in the line of shadow that one can see here. Once the seams are done, you can pull the zipper head all the way up, check your work, and remove the basting threads. And let me show you quickly the result I got without this method on my toile. Now I will make a few stitches at the notch, which are going to work as an obstacle to contain the zipper head, and after that you can cut the zipper if you're into it, finish the raw edges with a little strip of fabric, which I'm not going to do now. Alright, let's add the facings. Lay the front and the back facings on the front and the back parts of the skirt, right sides together, and we're going to concentrate on the zipper area. Pin in place, and you're going to sew the facing along the edge of the zipper, but don't come very close to it. You can just sew in the middle of the seam allowance, so like 4 or 5 millimeters from the teeth. And the reason is that in the inside of the skirt you want to leave some space for the zipper way to remain uncluttered. So here I'm showing you the end result. And what not to do is illustrated here on this toile. When I sent a picture to my pattern maker, she told me that sewing the facing so close to the zipper teeth in the inside was unprofessional. Now I'm going to close the sides of the skirt and of the facings. I pin the facing to the waist edge of the skirt, and you'll sew starting the seam not from the edge but from the seam here, which is the one attaching the facing along the zipper edge. Once this is done, I recommend that you turn your work inside out and check it before trimming the edges. Now I'm going to top stitch the facings to the seam allowance, so you won't be able to sew very close to the zipper, but it's okay, you just go as close as you can. And this is what you get. Now I'm going to hand stitch the hem and the facing. We want to do invisible stitches. If you've never done it, it could be a good thing to watch a tutorial for it. And now the last step, which I had completely forgotten, it's about sewing the button, which is going to alleviate a bit of the tension that the zipper endures at the waist, because you know, sometimes after lunch or when you're sat, your waist area is bigger. I should have sewed it before, but no biggie. I even think that if you're a beginner, you can skip this part. So I have backed this little piece of the pattern with interfacing. I'm folding it right sides together and I sew it. I trim the edges. I turn it inside out and I press it down. I'm going to draw the buttonhole based on how wide my button is. I do not have an automatic buttonhole option on my machine. I'm folding the raw edge and fixing it with a few rough hand stitches. I'll place it in the middle of the facing, close to the edge. So I placed it on the front facing, and now that I've worn the skirt, I recommend you place it on the back. It's more convenient for right-handed people like me. Identify the best placement for your button and sew it again to the facing. We don't want to see any thread on the right side of the fabric. And that's it. Oh my lord, it was a good one. look at this. Alright, I'm gonna give you a couple more details about the fabric, beginner-friendly size range in the next seconds. They actually look like slides originally. I was talking to the camera in that field, just like in the intro, but it's gonna be more efficient and clearer for you that way. If you have further questions, you can ask them in the comment section, or you can also write me on Instagram. And yeah. Take care, and I'll see you in my next video. Kiss!